大家回到我们的论坛 ，Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our forum。接下来这个场次的座谈主题是网际网路独特识别系统的演进，新时代下域名系统将如何发展 ？We will now move to our next session titled "Evolution of the Internet's Unique Identifier Systems: How will the domain name system evolve in the new era?" 这个场次呢，我们将聚焦讨论在新 GTLD 扩展、IPv6 发展，还有新兴识别技术的发展之下，网际网路识别系统的未来走向，以及这些变化对于整体运作还有治理模式的影响。In this session, we will examine how Internet identifier systems may evolve amid developments such as new GTLD expansion, IPv6 development, and emerging naming technologies, and what this means for the Internet's architecture and governance. 这个场次的主持人是 .Asia 钟宏安执行长。The moderator for this session is Mr. Edmund Zhong, CEO of .Asia. 接下来就把时间交给主持人。I will now hand the floor to our moderator, Mr. Edmund Zhong. The floor is yours.
Thank you. 大家好。
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to all of you. Well, basically, with this session, we'll be switching between Mandarin and English. So you probably can check out the translation headset.
Session, we will run it both in Chinese and English. So for those of you who would like to go get a earpiece, please go and check it out. 刚才讲到今天
Well, as mentioned already, this is a very special session because normally at ICANN meetings, we very seldom talk about DNS or development outside of the DNS field. So we have three panelists, David, Jim, and Jason. All three of them normally do not present themselves at ICANN meetings. So, well, throughout today's meeting, we run into people we often see at ICANN meetings. So, what we call usual suspects. But for this session, we really want to breathe a fresh breath of air into our discussion.
My presentation because it's easier. I use a lot of terms in English anyway. So and then the other panelists will choose to use Chinese or English as we go along. So the key three questions that I've asked for each of the panelists actually to respond to are what are some of the alternative naming systems? How do they complement or how do they, contradict or cause problems with the DNS and IP systems? It's not just the DNS system. And then, are those alternative naming systems, do they have governance systems? Do they have governance structures? Or are they multi-stakeholder? Do governments even participate in them, for example? And finally, because AI is everywhere, we will talk about AI as well, how AI, the agentic world and agent identities might impact the future, and should there be a global standard for AI agents in terms of identity and verifiable identity and so on. So I will start, I guess, but before I start, I'll just quickly introduce our organization, the .Asia, coming from .Asia, of course, domains.asia, that's the kind of thing that we do. This is also the main income source for .Asia organization, but we run as a not-for-profit organization, so, but I've lost controlling power. So all the surplus that comes in through the operations goes back into supporting internet development in the Asia-Pacific region, supporting initiatives like the Internet week here in Taiwan, but also youth programs. One of the main programs that we support is called Net Mission, and young people participating in internet governance. In fact, as traditional now, before this forum, in the last, over the weekend, I was interacting, I had the chance to interact with some of the youth here in Taiwan about internet governance. So I'll touch back on this, but it's not just about getting them to know about internet governance, but also for them to have actually substantive input into the internet policies. And I'll touch on WSIS at the very end. But going back to the topic at hand, of course, these are the guys that created the last wave of a question about alternative naming systems, from Stoppable, the Ethereum naming services, Handshake, free names, and some of these, what is called Web3 domains. Sometimes I find it interesting, and whether we should even call them domains. They are certainly kinds of naming services. They have dots, but not all of them actually uses the DNS itself. It uses a different resolution system, and sometimes people, it needs particular plugins that is completely removed from what we understand as the DNS. So. ICANN itself, I think one interesting thing is ICANN has obviously taken note, and as the new GTLDs come along this year, there will be new generic top-level domains that will be applied for. In fact, ICANN just a couple of weeks ago it announced the beginning of a technical study group that will look into alternative naming systems. This is quite interesting because this is 2026, April of 2026. The next slide will show something that is from July 2001, 25 years ago. And what is interesting is that ICANN is still relying on a document that was written 25 years ago to talk about a unique authoritative route for the DNS. Well, lots have transpired and evolved over time, especially different naming systems, which we would like to talk a little bit about today. But it is definitely time to update this document, and it's good to see that ICANN is taking that initiative, and it's very exciting to see that move forward. But alternative naming systems doesn't have to clash with the DNS. And one of the best example that I often use is RFIDs. Everyone, if you've been shopping or whatever, you must have done RFIDs. In fact, most of the RFIDs, I think all of the RFIDs actually is connected to what is called an object name system or object name service. And they use DNS. They use exactly DNS, the DNS servers that you use, but actually an alternate system. It doesn't use the same root, but it can map back to root system. So this is an alternate system that is running every day today for billions of transactions that runs on parallel DNS that doesn't conflict with the DNS, and that's something that I think it's a really interesting thing. And then there are things that are built on top of the DNS. And this is a drone identity system, a new standard from the IETF called the DRIP, which provides drones with IDs that could be retrieved, information that can be retrieved from drones. And then I did a quick search for two keywords, agent identity on IETF. And there are 17 drafts that came in from the last 2 months alone, talking about standards for addressing AI agent identity. So this is definitely something that is up and coming. That's something that's worth talking about. Another thing, one thing that I did want to highlight is in the past or right now, when we talk about identity, especially identities that can be verified on the internet, it's usually the servers. We go to a website and they have an SSL certificate. It's usually the client doesn't quite have an identity like that. But I think with AI, that's going to change because AI agents that represent you and I that actually goes and then log into other systems, those are kind of clients, right? Those clients are going to have an identity and going to have be verified. Maybe in the short future, we will actually need an identity and be verified along with our agents, because the system might not know whether it's your agent actually talking to them or you talking to them, right? I mean, that's going to be, I think, one of the interesting futures is that personalized identity becomes something interesting. And one other development, going back, one other development is personalized domains. So besides agent, the world of social media, and especially federated social media, which people call the Fediverse, is starting to take note. Rather than everyone jumping onto Facebook, it's actually possible nowadays for the Fediverse to have your own domain name with your own social media kind of page without being tied to a particular platform. And I think that is also another development of unique identifiers on the internet. So. And then I'll go back, kind of pivot to the last part that I want to touch on, which is the governance model of things. Most of the governance, the internet governance, actually grew out from the IETF. That's where the internet was started. And rough consensus and running code still reigns true today for the internet. And then, of course, the multi-stakeholder model is something that I think ICANN really formalized, which is the backbone of what we call internet governance today. The participation from governments, participation from civil society, the technical community, business, the industry, together to make decisions on global policies is something interesting. And the question for future evolution of the unique identifier systems is the key questions I think we need to ask is whatever technology it is, does it have the global public interest in mind, and is it a multi-stakeholder, bottom-up, multi-stakeholder, and consensus-based process? That's I think, regardless of what the governance structure actually is, maybe there's a new ICANN for the future agentic world. But these are three things that I think continues to hold true: bottom-up, multi-stakeholder, and consensus-based, and across three areas, including the agenda setting, deliberations, discussions, and also decisions. So this 3x3 matrix, in my mind, represents the learning from the ICANN community over the last 25 years. And actually this year, we're also celebrating 10 years anniversary of what is called the IANA stewardship transition. And this learning shouldn't be, wasted in my mind. How we come together to make decisions globally is going to be important for however the internet's identifier systems evolve. But is it perfect? Of course, it's not perfect, right? I mean, there's lots of improvement that could be made. It's not dealing with digital rights enough. It's not dealing with, is it democratic? Is it representative of the people? Maybe not so. But I think the key goes back to whether we need to continue to build on, if we want an identifier system that remains, one internet that keeps the internet together, unfragmented, then we need to learn from what we've done. And we have actually won a lot of battles along the way. Last year at the WSIS Plus 20, the multi-stakeholder model was finally affirmed. Basically, ICANN, IETF, RIRs, APNIC, and so on. The multi-stakeholder model we have today was affirmed by the multilateral system at the United Nations, and that's a big win. So technical community and youth are now clearly listed in a UN document that says they are important, distinct stakeholder groups in internet governance. And we definitely, I don't think we need to throw this away. And again, however it transpires, I think this is going to be an important point. So with that comes to the end of my part, and I will, I guess, go over the panel this way, and I'll pass the mic over to David.
Thank you, Edmund. Can I use your slide about your creations?
Please.
Thank you very much.
Wants to use part of my slide.
Yeah. Sorry, I will use the Chinese to presentation. Yeah. Okay. 你三个问题的那个。
Yeah, I have a slide with 3 questions, right? Hello, everyone. My name is David Liu from Line, currently in charge of the security department. I'm not that familiar with the governance model of ICANN. So when I received the invitation to take part in this panel, I did a lot of homework and research. Some of our perceptions may differ from ICANN's. So I beg your forgiveness. So I'm from Line Security. Basically, we do a lot of things from the security perspective. So Line is a company that is the largest communication company in Taiwan, Japan, and Korea. So on a day-to-day basis, we strive to transmit information from one user to another. So personally, we see Line as a network. So we do have to take care of a lot of governance issues. And because we need to transmit information effectively and safely, the unique identifier system is of particular importance to us. So it's a system based on the internet. So a global unique identifier system like DNS can actually connect users to us. And on our platform, we have to be able to connect ourselves to the users. So this kind of unique identifier system is indeed very critical. But the platform-oriented unique identifier system is actually different from the global unique identifier system. It works on a hierarchical manner. So for it, be it ID network or actually, users will be connected to our platform, and we will use our identifier system to do some networking. For example, users can look for people they know on our platform. So through this kind of unique identifier system, our platform, we can ensure the correct and timely transmission of information between users. So this kind of design has brought about some information security challenges, which is also my expertise. Whether it's traditional IP or DNS or information network, we discover instances where malicious users would engage in spam, fraud, or transmission of malicious content. Or they have some spam email or engage in illegal activities on our platform. So when we went about designing our own unique identifier system, we found that trust and safety are the most important 2 pillars, because when users are willing to sign up to our system, our platform can actually run smoothly. So in the past 2 years, we see that fraud cases have been on the rise on our platform. So on the infrastructure level, it has a lot to do with DNS abuse or IP abuse. But Taiwanese government has gone about blocking certain networks or certain service providers. And for service providers such as Line, this is not a good thing, because now we see local governments trying to block these things. Basically, they are making the internet more and more fragmented and isolated. So what we do response is to add more unique identifiers. For example, telephone numbers, email addresses, or device identifier. So with these multiple identifiers available, which are managed by third party, we also establish our own platform together with law enforcement agencies. They will notify us which cell phone numbers are commonly used by criminals. So when we receive these signals that come in the form of identifiers, actually we are more well informed as we send friendly reminders to users as we ensure the safety and security of our platform. So that is an alternative approach to handling a unique identifier system. I think that's something very different from what ICANN is doing. It's more concerned about GTLD, but there's an alternative approach. That is, we have multiple sources of identifiers from multiple stakeholders. So the variety of identifiers can actually contribute to our management of IP or DNS. So the way we see it, this kind of alternative approach to addressing the unique identifier issue can be valuable as we share different identifiers across platforms. For example, in the past 2 years, we tried to conduct surveys on scammers. We find that they prefer certain IP addresses or domain names in particular. So if platforms can gather this kind of information, because I said different platform providers or organizations, we are not enforcement and therefore cannot access certain information. But if we can construct a platform with law enforcement, we can access partial information as the government tries to block certain websites. So we may be able to more effectively preempt some of the abuse or incidents. It works like the trusted notifier system promoted by ICANN. I think this is indeed a very meaningful endeavor because all trusted notifiers actually are informed about whether certain abuses should be should be stopped, and they can engage in a series of actions to prevent the abuse from the infrastructure side. So that's the way we see it as a platform provider. But for the government, I think we should go one layer up above the infrastructure, that is towards the application layer. So there should be, it works both ways. So in the new, because originally we can add one layer above the infrastructure layer. That's between IP and DNS layer. We can have this multi-stakeholder approach because the internet architecture carries no passport and involves multiple stakeholders. But as for platform providers or application layers, more jurisdiction specific. We need to be locally informed and conform to local regulations. We can share some information with the infrastructure provider for better governance. So I'm thinking about something like a alternative naming system across multiple layers so that we can connect different points of information. In so doing, we can actually make sure that the information can actually move from the application layer to the infrastructure layer. And as I said, I work at the security department. And for many, many years, we're trying to identify what a bot looks like because we're providing a communication software. So we want to prevent instances where bots are being abused to calm people into doing bad things. But with the development of AI, a lot of people are using AI agents. So we are still in the process of identifying potential threats derived from bots. So in terms of naming system, in the future, we can think about how platform providers can really identify whether these AI agents had been authorized by users, because we had a pain point where these attackers hide behind proxy or CDN. We cannot really identify who actually engineered cyber attacks. In the future, these malicious actors may also hide behind AI agents. So in the future, we can have a new naming system, as we discussed just offline. We can have some system to really identify who the user is. Because in the past, we could only identify the server, but in the future, we have to be able to penetrate the veil and identify who is actually using the service, because the users may not be real human beings. You need to identify the intention of the bot and whether the bot has been authorized beforehand by the users. Thank you. So you just shared an interesting insight, that is to have an alternative naming system. It's like a system with multiple verification mechanism. Quite interesting. How about Jim? Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Lin. Today, I'm very happy to be here on behalf of the TABEI, or Taiwan Association for Blockchain Ecosystem Innovation. Our association was founded in 2016. We are tasked with providing consultancy services to our members and engaging in international exchange, so that people and local enterprises in Taiwan actually can benefit from decentralized services and blockchain. I'm also a manager of the Taiwan chapter of Proto School. So Proto School mainly aims to promote decentralized web-based protocols and tools. For example, Web3, IPFA4 biocode, among others. I'm also a CEO of a tech company. So we have two major services, that is RWA and trusted credentials, because we are a partner of GLEI in Taiwan. Now back to the topic of this panel. First, one of the most famous domain system for blockchain is called EMS, Ethereal Name Service, or ENS. ENS was founded back in 2017 and went into popularity in 2021, because in that year, the blockchain market or cryptocurrency market actually saw the emergence of NFT, or non-fungible tokens. So that's why in 2021, we saw this kind of decentralized domain service actually soared in terms of popularity. So basically, the way ENS works is that on blockchain, we manage a variety of digital assets. So basically, we use the concept called wallet for exchange of cryptocurrencies. And now, there is an account or address attached to a specific wallet. But the address is made up of complex strings of letters or numbers. So for the general public, this kind of strings of numbers and digits are hard to memorize or note down. But for ENS, it can be converted to a down-to-earth, decipherable way for people to record. For example, we are celebrating the Internet Week 2026, so we can use internetweek.eth to represent one address attached to a wallet specific to this week's event. Now, about IPFS, it's actually a decentralized content protocol. As an example, let's say we have a web page under a DNS, but With IPFS, it can be distributed to different servers and can be constrained together. But one IPFS is unique is that you need to become part of its servers. So with the ENS service, the contents across IPFS can be integrated and connected. So if the browsers are supported by IPFS, we can just type in internetweek.eth and you'll be connected to the official website of the conference, which is run in a decentralized manner.
So, we are talking about new GTOD systems. Say an organization is applying for a new domain name, .eth. So, with the ENS standard, we have the ENS IT 1023. So that's a specific addition of standards. Given that kind of standards, we will be able to take a new GTOD domain name, for example, .eth, and with this new domain name, we will be able to combine that with new services so that they become interoperable with one another. Therefore, we believe this provides very strong incentives. Coming back to the current internet system promoted by ICANN, we believe this is a very mature system, but we are talking about a new and decentralized system. We call it DIO. In other words, among stakeholders, they decide on how to do certain things by voting. So they will cast a vote and they will make a decision accordingly. So especially given more and more interoperability will be required going forward. Therefore, we believe decentralized and centralized systems will need to be merged together. We believe eventually we might see a hierarchical structure. Today we might need do centralized governance, but probably on a different day we need to resort to do decentralized governance. So when it comes to the issue of interoperability, we have also observed something that's very interesting. For example, cell phone numbers. If we use RFC 3761, for example, .61, .64 specifications can be mapped to our current DNS system. Suppose future DNS systems will become interoperable with the cell phone number system. Then we know that currently there are 5 billion cell phone users around the world. Therefore, the DNS number and ETH number will really be growing exponentially. So this is something that we are paying very close attention to. And at our association, we have carried out a small experiment. We set up a private blockchain, and AI agents are able to do financial procurement through A2A, A2P. So AI agents will be able to do business with another AI agent. And they can, for example, request a quote by another AI agent. And then the AI agent, given their authorization, will be able to make payment using stable coin. So this type of POC demo has been completed. And upon completion of that project, we we realized that quotation is very important. For example, suppose an AI agent, we assign this task to it, and but for the AI agent to make procurement, the AI agent needs to be authorized. So who should be giving this type of authorization? That's a very interesting question. Originally, we use ISO 1742 LEI credentials. We design our system using that type of credentials. Therefore, basically, we believe this is exactly what we are looking for. But we believe going forward, there could be more issues that will come to our attention. Therefore, I think we really need to engage in more discussions and debates so that we can identify the best direction we should be moving in. Through through credentials, we can think of something else, and that is KYA, Know Your Agent. You really need to understand your agent. Who has given your agent authorization, at what time the agent should carry out what things, what tasks. Therefore, these are all issues that we have been discussing recently. Well, indeed, those are very interesting points. Both Jim and David mentioned something, and that is cell phone numbers. Well, we had no idea we could be talking about cell phone numbers. So many years removed from the advent of cell phones. Well, obviously, this is a new opportunity, and well, it just so happened we have someone from Zhonghua Telecom with us because we just spoke of cell phone numbers. And Jason represents Zhonghua Telecom. Zhonghua Telecom is all about assigning cell phone numbers. Well, actually, I've prepared the text. Therefore, I will be reading from my text so that I can make a very systematic presentation and I can be more efficient. So please allow me to read from my text, and I will be speaking in Mandarin. So very quickly, I will be reading from my prepared text.
So call me Jason, which is probably easier. And I serve on Zhonghua Telecom's ICANN DNS team, where I've been working for more than 15 years. And our responsibilities include operating large-scale DNS resolver systems, such as 168.95.1.1, which is probably famous in locally, and to run this system to fulfill the need for DNS resolution for millions of users. And we also provide DNS hosting services, which aim to offload the burdens about authoritative name servers for individuals, enterprises, and government. And developing, maintaining, and of course protecting these services and the systems behind has given me extensive hands-on experience with DNS. In short, I consider myself as a practitioner of traditional DNS, and I hope to share my practical perspectives on today's topics for you. And Edmund gave us some core questions to start with. And the question 8 is about the identifier or naming system that we use. And in my case, the traditional DNS is the answer. We haven't been getting involved in the alternative or local one. As for question B is about the governance of local or alternative identifier or naming system. Since most of my users and clients still need traditional DNS services mostly, so we haven't been involved in local or alternative systems. So sorry, I have to skip this question. And lastly, which is I have some more points to share. Question C is about AI agents' impact. And can you turn to the next page for me? Thank you. Okay. From my point of view as a DNS service provider, thank you. I care more about whether queries are threatening than who or what the querying clients are. Why queries might be threatening? The reason is that we can check it from at least two perspectives. First, quantity-wise, if query volume exceeds our system capacity, say it's a DOS attack or DDoS attack, then the server's availability is going to be in danger, obviously. And on the other hand, if quantity-wise, if query contains random subdomain, which will probably trigger more, will probably consume more resources while resolving. And that we consider that as a threat to our service as well. So anyway, since service availability is our top priority, if that is in danger, we have to take some immediate or emergency actions to mitigate the impact. So that's why we care more about the query sent rather than the anyone who sends the queries. No matter it's a real person or an automated agent. And actually, to me, there are also substantial barriers existing for me to dig into the identities of querying clients, aside from legal concerns, extra high costs for data storage, data process, and human resource of big data expertise, etc. That all costs money. So that's another reason that we don't, at least for my team, we haven't touched that field yet. But luckily, as a DNS resolver provider or a DNS hosting provider, a client's identity is not that necessary for us to run our business or to do our job. So that's the circumstances that that's the status quo on my side. Okay, that's pretty much about it. 剩下的补充我就因为没有写稿。
And probably I can supplement some observations after hearing from other panelists. They talk about cell phone numbers. Well, because right now I provide services that is based on traditional DNS resolution. We know that the traditional DNS resolution system goes back a long time because it dates back to 1970s, 1980s. Therefore, it's quite mature. Right now, we haven't had the need to identify the user. Well, because the user doesn't need to do any login before they make use of the resolution services that we provide. So probably you can call us being very lucky. So when it comes to the issue of alternative naming system, this is my personal view. Unless the alternative naming system is operated in a closed system, I'm not talking about a specific region, probably covers multiple geographic regions, but basically they can consider to be the same group, to be belonging to the same group, then it's probably more useful so that we can begin to consider using alternative naming system because this probably can minimize the resources and cost that will be required if we want to resolve the new naming system. However, if we want to combine alternative naming system with existing naming system promoted by ICANN, then we will run into problems such as conflict between the two, and there will be issues that need to be resolved as far as compatibility is concerned. So that's just my personal view. Compatibility. Well, we believe this is something we really need to address going forward. And now we would like to open the floor. So again, if you have any questions, please line up behind the microphone. You can also scan the QR code shown on the screen so that you can type in your questions. If you want to ask questions through the microphone, you can also raise questions by scanning the QR code. Coming back to some of the very interesting point we just heard from the panelists. You mentioned that you don't need to verify the identity of your client. However, is this future-proof? Because as mentioned by the other two panelists, both of them mentioned cell phone numbers probably could become something that can serve as an identifier. However, this probably gives rise to privacy problems. Do you see any conflict here? So I would like to know your views on this particular issue, especially if we do use cell phone numbers as an identifier, then whether this will create problems for privacy or governance.
Yes, cell phone numbers do come with privacy concerns. So we basically see cell phone numbers as a kind of identifier. That said, we do not gather other information than the cell phone numbers unless necessary. So we use cell phone numbers as identifiers mostly or mainly because we want to have a wider variety of identifier system. For example, we liaise with law enforcement agencies. Let's say if they found that there's an abuse going on with certain cell phone number or connected to a certain number, then based on our platform policy, we can engage in some follow-up action. So the way we do this is that we are different from IP and DNS. We are a platform provider. So we need to follow the local specific regulations. We are subject to different regulations by different jurisdictions. So we need to design a governance structure across different identifiers. So whether it's authority or government or law enforcement, know when they should notify the incidents to us so we can engage in take some follow-up actions. So we only want to use identifiers to match different information points. We don't want to gather more information than necessary. But it's not very mature yet because we're still thinking about how we can exchange information while protecting user privacy. So our tentative solution for now is that, of course, we will have some auditable data, but we will not link them to a particular user. How about you, Jim? In addition to cell phone numbers, blockchain names can potentially be useful going forward to solve some of the compatibility issues. Can you elaborate more on this? Yes. The reason why we mention cell phone number is because we have to think about our local financial system. Because now banks can they recognize cell phone numbers as a way to represent your account. So you can actually use your cell phone numbers to replace your accounts for verification. But blockchain works on a transparent basis. And so there are two issues in this. First, you need to make sure that your wallet address is more memorizable, so we can use ENS. But if you want to really identify to whom this address belongs, you can actually also include cell phone numbers because we now require real name registration if you want to apply for cell phone number. So it is possible to link one number to a specific user. That therein also lies a privacy challenge. For example, for a certain IP wallet, they know that you are using this wallet and they know your cell phone number, then your credentials or cell phone numbers may potentially be abused. So we've been all talking about how in this transparent environment of blockchain, we can actually have a bulletproof mechanism. That is to prevent instances of attack. For example, let's say I have a cell phone number tied to a domain name or wallet address, but it is actually a master number. It has a lot of sub-numbers under it. So if malicious actors want to engage in criminal activities, we can actually dodge the bullet. So we can filter malicious actors because under one cell phone actor, we can actually categorize based on different credentials. For example, who can transmit or receive certain information. We can actually pre-configure the system. I'm not sure whether Jason has anything to contribute. Yes, thank you. Again, take cell phone numbers, which can definitely serve as a form of identifier. Because I've been in this DNS field for many, many years, so I'm more of a pessimist here because I think we're all familiar with how DNS works, and it works quite a straightforward way. It sends queries and it gives you the response, and it has nothing to do with verification for efficiency's sake. So if you want to include additional identifiers into the system, things can get more challenging. Let's say if we only want to have a resolution being done, whether these new sources of information are necessary is still open to question. So sometimes the current system is perhaps more straightforward, but we are trying to make things more complicated in terms of DNS resolution. And you just mentioned about other potential scenarios which might require verification. Now, when it comes to privacy, in the DNS field, we focus more on a different dimension. That is, let's say, cell phone numbers, and the privacy concerns come from the identifiable information that you can link with a particular user. But in a traditional DNS domain, we focus more on transaction as a concept. That is, for example, DNS records, which IP is being connected to a certain DNS. The transaction means who, at what time, uses what domain name. That's what we mean by transaction, which speaks a lot about the user's behaviors. So it will speak a lot about users' behavior online. So when I'm subject to auditing, I say, oh, I'm not using any kind of personal information because DNS records basically are open, transparent. So privacy concerns are embodied differently in different worlds. So in blockchain, you have more comprehensive solution to address the issue. So we might have different interpretations regarding what privacy means and what kind of additional information can be included in the system. We still have 6 minutes left. We have collected 2 questions. The first one is, so I'm not sure what this question means, so why not the person who raised question can oralize or verbalize your question? It's not you? Oh, you have a question?
Security risk of remittance caused by the conflict between the new GTLD and blockchain domain. 这应该就是刚才讲到
because a lot of people are using .wallet and new or emerging GTLD. And for the last 5 minutes, I will ask each one of the panelists to spend 1 minute for some conclusion. Of course, after we answer all the questions from the floor. And DNS and IP will remain the necessity under the global arena. So we don't see anything that can replace the two. So you can address this part in your conclusion. Okay. So my question is, it's quite interesting you mentioned the instances of using cell phone numbers as a kind of unique identifier. But from my perspective, there are a lot of two-FA systems that do not recognize SMS or cell phone numbers as a secure way for verification. And there are reasons behind this. So my question, that's really a question for you. What's your view on this? And the second question, let's say it is possible to have DSI or DANE, these protocols are successfully implemented, then will DNS become a better identifier for you? Now, so 1 minute for each one of you to respond to the question. Oh, there's one more.
Jason, first of all, I think within the organization that you work for, I completely agree with you that on the DNS level, in terms of efficiency and looking simply at packets of data, then the source may not be relevant. But I think because of the profile of the business and the PR and the external implications on your customers, it is incumbent on the organization to look at it from a multi-level perspective. So efficiency of DNS queries, absolutely, but also what it means for you as essentially a utility provider that's providing critical business services and the implications of who and identification that data is flowing from and towards are critical components for you. Jim, I wanted to ask whether, in terms of blockchain and new technologies that you're utilizing now, is any of that possible using the existing system? And then, David, in terms of what you're doing at Line, you mentioned at the beginning you're seeing an uptake in fraud, but you're also releasing more names and more utility. Are the two correlated? Sorry, 3 questions for each panelist. Okay.
Cool. So I guess we'll go from Jason as a wrap up on a few things. What Alban talked about in terms of the security of the phone system. What we talked about blockchain future, the conflict. How do we resolve it? And then I actually missed the part, but I'm sure Jason, it's
hopefully. Okay. Firstly, as a practitioner of traditional DNS, yes, of course, I think it's gonna be a good solution to what we need DNS for, which is resolving domain name to IP, data, etc. So, 我想一下. As for the other issue that I remember is that, yes, it's true that as an ISP, we do have the data of who apply for the IP, who apply for the line. So yes, we can know who that is. But it's just that because Zhonghua Telecom is kind of a big company, so there are various groups in charge of various different tasks. So in my team, we are expected to provide DNS service, and to do that, we can even though we skip the client's profile, etc., or who clients are, we can do our job. Even we are handle like a DDoS attack, in which who sends the malicious query seems to be an important issue. In that case, actually, we are not allowed to, let me rephrase that. To mitigate DDoS attacks like that, compare with blocking, which is often heard a solution, it's more feasible for us to quarantine the source. By quarantine, I mean we still provide service to that source, whether it's a real human or a bot. It's just that we confine the impact within a specific group of servers and save others, leave others clean, relatively clean DNS system. Yeah, but Synco often related to stop providing service to that. But by quarantine, I mean we still provide service. It's just for from another group of servers. That's one of the solution we do. So in brief, I have to what I want to emphasize is that client profile, or who the clients are, is not that important for me for now. Okay, thank you.
Please keep short.
OK，我简单的回。
Yes, just to respond very briefly. Now we're in the process of coming up with a project. So we still use DNS server. It's a quick event, a QWIC. It's a kind of decentralized key infrastructure. So we combine them. So it may potentially serve as a new form of DLT or blockchain. So under this DNS structure, all domain names can be fixed onto this emerging type of blockchain. So we have a lot of options to choose from: your social account handle, cell phone numbers, traditional DNS name. It only takes some routing to combine different identifiers. So, but the underlying layer still works on the traditional DNS system. Maybe this project will be made public next year. So yes, we have a reason to invite you back again. How about David? Yes, this is a good question. The reason why we use cell phone numbers as a unique identifier is that, of course, we know that SMS verification is not 100% safe, but actually the cell phone number can be linked to multiple sources of identifier, because there are a lot of unique identifier systems around the world which we hope could be better integrated. Of course, we have to be mindful of privacy concerns, which, if can be properly addressed, can actually help us connect to different systems. For example, we have been reporting instances to some domain registrars. In the future, do we have other options beyond cell phone number? Yes. I think we can also switch back to the traditional DNS system, because what we need is a system that can help us share information across different unique identifier systems for trust and safety purposes, because these two pillars can help us prevent the fragmentation of a network.
I've run out of time. Thank you, everyone, for the interaction. I think it's really interesting. We started off this thinking there will be future naming systems. We come back to telephone numbers, and we talked about privacy. And some of the interesting thing is that not keeping certain data is probably a better way to think about privacy to begin with, right? Not keeping the data, which Jason touched on. And I know that, and I think we all agree that DNS and IP addresses still remain the kind of foundation, unique identifier systems of the internet, and therefore ICANN and RIRs and the ecosystem is safe for now. But also more important, which is coming up in the next session, I understand, is how do we continue to improve it? Because the multi-stakeholder model is not perfect, but it is still what we have today. So with that, please join me in a round of applause to the panelists.
Thank you very much, Admin, for moderating the session, and thank you to all panelists. May I invite all the panelists and moderator to have a group photo. 我们最后邀请所有的语坛讲者，还有我们的主持人来一起合影一张。再次感谢所有的语坛讲者，还有主持人非常精彩的座谈。And thank you very much for this in-depth discussions. All right, please look at our photographer right in the middle. 我们看向正中间的摄影师。One more photo， 再一张，一个赞，再一张。Thank you very much， 我们再次掌声，谢谢这个场次的语坛讲者，还有我们的主持人，谢谢大家。